Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Freaky Fast Broadcasting of the Stars and Stripes, and it's race number 7. We went from the Destruction Derby at Martinsville to now the Tricky Triangle. Pocono Raceway is where we are here for race number 7. Exciting racing to be seen here for the Stars and Stripes. As last week got to see Nick Holland become the second two-time winner this season, tying himself with Scott Rickard. And looking at this season, it is just going to get spicier from here on out. But before we get to more racing action, gotta give our big thanks to all of our amazing sponsors. ButtKicker, feel what you've been missing. If you want to enhance your gaming feeling-wise, get yourself a Gamer 2. It is a way for you to feel the sounds, not just hear them. Feel when you're slipping and sliding through these corners in a V8 machine, or on your iRacing, or even when you're watching YouTube videos, movies, whatever you want to do, get yourself a Gamer 2. And when you're purchasing that Gamer 2, use the promo code FreakyFast20, FreakyFast20, Freaky with 2 E's, get yourself 20% off getting yourself a Gamer 2 at the ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. As well, we've got to give a huge thanks to Pocono Setup Shops. Pocono Setup Shops, best way to get yourself out there. You know, you got yourself a Gamer 2. Why not get yourself setups to help you get there on track and get yourself some wins? Pocono Setup Shop, use the promo code FFB10 for 10% off of your setups there at Pocono Setup Shop. And as well, why not get yourself some professional helps at that of Pocono Setup Shops? Go to www.poconosetupshops.com/coaching, and for $25 per hour, get your own personal coach from some of the best out there. You've got eNASCAR Coca-Cola Racing champion Zach Novak, as well as his teammate Jimmy Mullis. Jimmy Mullis just won this season in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola Series. As well, get help from some of the other amazing drivers at Pocono Setup Shops. Thank you to Pocono Setup Shops and that of ButtKicker. But tonight, race number 7, it is going to be a fun one. Pocono, the Tricky Triangle. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Hunter Hayward, as well as Robert Moyer, who's going to be running the cameras and graphics for us here tonight. But Hunter, it's the Tricky Triangle, 2.5 miles. You got the draft. You've got 3 very different corners from one another. And we've got drama as well with all the chaos from last week.
A lot of chaos from last week as well. Maybe some drivers that want to get some payback this week. This is a great track to do it, where you got a lot of draft and room to make up at a track that's as large as Daytona. It's going to be interesting to see. This track is also notorious for fuel saving and fuel strategy, so it's going to be interesting to see all the strategies that are thrown around in the air today.
This is underway for another 3 minutes and 10 seconds, but Hunter, here the setups looking like these drivers looking pretty stable, watching the practice so far here tonight. But coming into this race, it has been all really Scott Rickard until these last 2 weeks, where that of Nick Holland winning at Charlotte in a dramatic fashion with that of 16 laps to go at Charlotte 2 weeks ago. And then last week, being another surprise, showing up late once again and winning at Martinsville. It seems like the late charger of Nick Holland, showing that you don't need to be the most dominant car up front all race long to get it done here this season.
Oh, definitely. And as we're speaking right now, Scott Rickard and Nick Holland, both quickest times right now during this practice session here at Pocono. So it's going to be interesting to see if these two drivers are going to be duking it out for the lead here all day today, or maybe even, like you said, the 68 might be a late charger and try to close the race at the end like he did at Martinsville. Both these drivers are really good. Both these drivers both tied with 2 wins this season, so it's going to be interesting to see how this works out. But right now, 2 really quick cars here today at Pocono. It will be an interesting one to see for sure. Keep in mind also the 20 of Offerman has had the most top 10 finishes so far right now in the league. Broke his streak last week at Martinsville after unfortunately getting caught in a wreck, but right now he's 3rd on the board. So keep an eye out for him. He might be really quick today as well.
Yeah, Offerman and Scott Rickard both tied with 5 top 10s this season. The driver with the most top 5s, though, is the guy that's been finishing second fiddle a lot this season, Andrew Medlin. Medlin has 4 top 5s this season, and then you've got a string of 5 other drivers. That's Scott Rickard, Aaron Hale, Kyle McCoy. Also that of seeing Nick Holland, all with 3 top 5s. So we had our streak that got broken for that of Derek Offerman, who got caught up in a lot of messes that happened last week at Martinsville. But Martinsville showed that track position kind of was the most important factor of that course. But Hunter, here, there's only 3 corners to worry about. But what would you say is some of the biggest importance here at Pocono?
Well, Sam, unlike tires not being a factor at Martinsville, tires are going to be a huge factor here at Pocono. Old tires usually have around 2.5 second wear on a full fuel run rather than new tires. About a 2.5 second difference between them. So with this track being 3 long straights, having the grip with the new tires carrying all that speed through the corner and the exits will carry that momentum all the way through the straightaways. And so new tires are definitely going to have a huge effect on drivers who are on older tires, and you'll definitely see it happen today. So it'll be interesting to see what the strategies are thrown in the air. Maybe some drivers staying out on much older tires to keep an extra set towards the later of the race. But, Sam, Pocono is a really long track, a lot of time, full throttle, so it's going to be really important to have the freshest tires you can over the field.
Yeah, and speaking of tires, like it's going to be for every race this season, the drivers have 4 sets to work with here tonight. The one they start out with once we go green, and 3 sets in pit road. So they got to pick and choose when they want to be making those decisions as practice is coming to a close and qualifying about to be opened up. And Hunter, I was looking at these stats. I try to each and every week, and something that I kind of glazed over, wasn't really thinking about, was we have had a different pole sitter each and every week. No one has doubled down just yet, but based on the speed that we've seen from that of Scott Rickard, also from Andrew Medlin, I wouldn't be surprised if one of those drivers are the ones that can get their second pole position here this season.
Oh, definitely. At a track where your momentum is the most important, where it's so large in the straights, like I mentioned earlier, is what keeps that speed going and all the way to the next corner. There's only 3 corners here to navigate around, so it's very crucial to get every single corner perfect to carry all that speed through. And like we said on the top of the board, the 05 and the 68, both really quick right now in practice. I wouldn't be too shocked if we saw them on the top of the board today, Sam.
No, I really wouldn't either. Some big drivers making some big splashes after a solid running last week at Martinsville, that being Jason Metcalf, as well as just that of Brandon Messick. Both those drivers able to move up double digits in points after last week's run for themselves. So we're looking to see what Metcalf and for Messick, both of them hoping to string along a little bit of momentum for themselves, especially for that of Jason Metcalf, who was back in 28th in points last week when we started at Martinsville, came out currently 17th in points. This is going to be our 7th race into the season, but this is around the time you got to start thinking, hey, I've got to run consistent if I've had a poor first half of the season.
Oh, definitely. And when you fall down in the points, it's so much harder to make it all the way back up to the top of the standings again. It's really easy to fall down, but it's very difficult to make it all back up. And right now is where consistency is and what's important, knocking off top 10s, top 5s in the beginning to mid-season, so you can definitely be there at the end.
Drivers still trying to get themselves around this course. It is a long while to get yourself warmed up and ready to go, but it's going to be that of Dylan Grimm. Going to be topping the board initially, but yeah, I would say, Hunter, from my point of view, usually it's the second lap that's the fastest when you warm up those tires. Would you say that that's the same here at Pocono?
With this package where you have less downforce and more power to the car, I feel like it's not like a Daytona setup where you have to get that warm-up lap to get those tires fully grained into the track. This track is so large, and you want the freshest tires you can to get that quickest lap. I wouldn't be surprised if the first lap right now is the quickest over the second.
Currently, after first laps are being finished up, Scott Rickard going to be top of the board with 0.5. Nick Holland in second, Dylan Grimm in third place. So Grimm might not have had the best time for himself, but certainly has been finding that speed here this evening. Grimm coming into this race 23rd in points, so he's going to be finding himself a good showing here tonight. He needs a top 10, top 5 finish. As tonight, we're going back to the way that it's been for most of the season. 30-plus drivers last week was our smallest field, and I think most of them recognized, hey, it's Martinsville. Maybe we'll take a pass on this racetrack because we only had 30 drivers, but We've been averaging anywhere from 39 to 35 drivers in our first 5 races this season. This is incredible by this league to see those numbers still 7 races in. It's something you don't really see very often in most leagues. Sometimes you start high with 30 plus drivers, and then after about 5 races, you're down to 20, sometimes even down to 15 if some drivers are having some off days, as qualifying soon to be coming to a close. We're about a little bit more than a minute left here in qualifying. Hunter, I know that we've came from Destruction Derby now to Pocono. Is there anything that you're excited to see here tonight, or any surprises that you've seen from practice and qualifying?
Oh, one thing I'm definitely excited to see is in Pocono fashion is the restarts. You know, we talked about it earlier, Sam. There's a rule in this league where you can't push it 3 wide until you reach the backstretch, but it's notorious at Pocono to push it 3-4 wide going into turn 1 and make up as many spots as you can, especially when there's varying strategies in the air. Everybody likes watching restarts at Pocono, especially even in the Real Life Cup Series earlier this year. They were really awesome restarts, so it's going to be interesting to see, and if any drivers follow these rules in these restarts, especially if there's a green white checker today, Sam.
Yeah, it's kind of been a kind of a murky gray zone with some of these rules, because I know last week we saw a couple of drivers kind of crossing the line of changing their lanes before we got to start finish line, and we'll see if any of that ruling stands. And we just got confirmation from race control. That's going to be that of Randy Cornwell, who's going to be, we're going to probably see in our graphic gridded, but he's actually going to be our race control here tonight. One of the drivers asked for that ruling. Will they be allowed to go 3-4 wide into turn 1? And it looks like the rule is going to stand. So it means you cannot go 3 wide on the entry of turn 1. Once you get out of the corner, all the gloves are off. As here is your starting grid for these drivers here tonight, as Pocono is going to give us such a fun one, as it's going to be that of going to be seen Timmy McNally, top of the board, 88 gets it done. Looking at the chart, Timmy McNally going to be the first driver to double down on pole positions. He got his first one back at Richmond with Scott Rickard going to be back in second place. That of Nick Holland going to be in third position, with Dylan Grimm in fourth. Going to be back at row number 3 here to find that of Travis Butt, as well as Kyle Boyling, with that of Andrew Metlin in 7th, with that of Ryan Burchett. Burchett, this is the best qualifying we've seen from the 223, and he needs to recover, as this driver has been finishing back in the top 20 almost all season long. He needs a great finish, with Derek Offerman and also that of Chris Wade going to be in 10th position. As Hunter, what's the rest of our top 20?
Starting in 11th will be the 15 of Ken Campbell, who also has had a really good qualifying start for him in that 15 car. 12th will be the 84 of Michael Watts. 13th going to the 18 of Dr. House. 14 going to go to the 3 of Cole Grimes, who we did not see last week, Sam. Also 15th, Nate Lynch in the 25. 16th is going to go to John Dart. 17th to the 209 of Travis Dart. 18th to Aaron Hale in the 4. 19th to the Brian Chu, and to round out your top 20s at 33, one of the fan favorites, Chris Essery.
Essery is back in. Excited to see what the 33 is going to bring us. In 21st position, we find that of Mike Lynch, and a driver that had the most points positions moved from last week. That's going to be that of Jason Metcalf at the 35, with the other driver second most points gained. Brandon Messick going to be in 23rd position. Trey Jackson going to be in that of 24. Trey Jackson, he's trying to stay more consistent. I think he's looking for a solid top 10 finish here tonight for the 31. Adam Siddle going to be one of the drivers' second start for the 6. He's going to be looking for a great showing, with Thomas Valles in 26. Ryan Lynch going to be in 27th, with that of George Kovacic going to be getting 28th, with that of Haas Beverly with 29th. Finishing out our top 30 going to be Mark Beverly, and Jason Rickett going to be getting 31st, and that's going to be the last of the drivers that actually put a time down. Those that didn't, Patrick Hasty going to be getting himself back in 33rd position, with Eric Schwar back in 34th, with Max Ward as well as Josh Warner finishing out our 36 car grid, which is actually going to drop down to 35 because of Randy Cornwell not actually starting. But this field, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm looking at the drivers currently, looking at some incident points. These are the points you can earn by making contact with a wall or other incidents. Eric Schwartz has a ton of incident points, as well as Josh Warner. Both of those drivers starting in the back, trying to give themselves a lot more space so they don't get caught up in any types of messes. But up front, drivers getting set up as they're going through turn number 2. Like we said, 4 tires, 3 sets in pit road for them to work with, 1 fast repair. And with that number of drivers for tire-wise, we might be seeing some drivers thinking about possibly hitting around lap 20 or 30. But with the 90% fuel load, some drivers might be thinking about splitting this race in half as they're going through turn 3. Drivers are getting set. Pace car about to come off. And this is kind of a special promotion for these guys. It's the World Interior 200, and that's from Bubba Chu. That's Ryan Chu's father. This is a 45-year business, and got to give credit to World Interiors for sponsoring today's race. As Timmy McNally gets a great launch for himself, he'll be pulling away as Scott Rickard and everyone else trying to get in line, but it's the 223, extremely high and losing ground for himself when he had such a great qualifying run.
We have someone spinning on the backstretch. Looks like it's going to stay green. He came down under the apron, but overall, pretty good restart there all around for everybody staying. And it's still too wide through the middle of the field a little bit, especially the 23 and the 20 of Offerman. Man, that was an interesting restart there, Sam. But, I mean, they did listen to the rule this time. They all stayed 1 to 2 wide going into 1 and finally made it 3 wide going to the backstretch. But right now, they're starting to get single file there.
Add single file utilizing the draft here in the Xfinity Series, and that driver that spun around, that was actually Ryan Chu. And it's got to be demoralizing when you have such a race that you want to have so much memories about, and promote and have a great running, and immediately out of turn 1 getting loose, out of control. It's going to be Tim McNally, Nick Holland, as well as Scott Rickard, Travis Butt, and also Medlin, your top 5. It seems like those drivers top 5 all season long, as we're currently watching the battle in the 3 dropping back, as Grimes is just falling back and further, now back to 16th, finally found a slot for himself to go into. And Hunter, just looking at this field, everyone's trying to play them themselves pretty neat here, but keep few drivers side by side throughout the field.
Yeah, and with a long race like this, 80 laps at a huge track, you know, some drivers like to just not like a short track where you have to focus only on your pace, not the cars around you, but it's just a track where you don't want to get into trouble early, like a track like Daytona or any other huge track like that, where you just want to be there at the end and not worry about the early parts of the race, which really don't really matter as much as the end of the race. Everybody wants to be there at the end and get the best finishing position they can, and that's why you see some drivers like the 3 of Grimes dropping back, and not many drivers even putting it too wide. But right now the 84 getting pressure from the 44. We got some drivers trying to make up their way. I mean, the 44, Kyle Bowling, up to 10th right now, battling with that 25 now. I don't know if he's dropping back or he's fighting for position right now, but some drivers pushing it too wide already, trying to make up as many positions as they can early in this race so they can be there at the end of the race with track position.
Yeah, that's the 25, Nate Lynch and Kyle Boyling in the 44. Lynch deciding to rock a new scheme here tonight as more drivers cycling through. Got to be careful and making sure you don't get yourself out of shape. Another driver running a different scheme here tonight. Mike Watts in 9th position, the 84, cruising his way through in 3. He's one of the 3 drivers that started outside of the top 10 and moved into it. First of those drivers, Ken Campbell, he's up to 7th position and trying to make a move up to 6th. And then you've got yourself that of Mike Watts as well as Dr. House, Paul House, in 10th position, started back in 13th, up to 10th. And some drivers that started in the top 10 are dropping back. You've got that of Kyle Boyling. He started back in 6th position, now back to 12th, as well as Brian Burchat that started in 8th. He's back to 15th. So some drivers might be going with the tire saving strat here instead of trying to be aggressive in these first 5 laps.
Speaking of the tire saving strat right now, the 23 of Dylan Grimm is falling back big time. Now side by side with the 25. The 25 is going to slow down and pull back behind him. But, you know, I mentioned earlier with the 44 of Bowling being side by side with the 85 of Watts. You know, Watts made that pass on the outside of the 44 of Bowling up 4 or 5 spots already in this race on lap 5. It looks like he's not holding back his tires at all, while the 23 of Grimm is saving as much as he can for the later run. You know, Sam, this is where all the momentum is carried through your corners to the straights, where you want to have as much tire and as much grip as you can, and burning up your tires really early in the race is not what you want to have going on with the car.
Absolutely not. As the driver's going through turn 2, as we're still on board with Wade. Wade, one of those drivers that's shown that he's got pace. Once we come to these 1.5 mile and larger courses, short tracks just was not the day for the 53, but you know, it didn't start out that way, but certainly drivers are marching their way forward. Fan favorite, that of Chris Essery, he's going to be all the fired back into the 21st position. And for this team, it's got to be just stay where you're at, stay calm. You'll slowly make your way forward. Qualified in 20th. It's only lost 1 position, but you know, it's a long race, like you noted there, Hunter. This course, 2.5 miles. It is a long one. You're still seeing all the different drivers and where they're standing, as well as you can see that of Brandon Messick, the 21, and the 66 of John Dart is smashed in between the 33 of Essery. Man, looking at the field, question is, who's going to make that first pit stop in my eyes? I think we're going to have to wait and see on that decision, because if we see drivers pit around lap 20 to 30, they're planning on making this race a 2-stop race, but especially around lap 30, turning this race into a 2-stopper. But who might think about stretching this race into a 1-stop course? That is probably, in my mind, the driver that has a chance to win this race if you're up in the top 10 and can stretch it that far.
You know, with the 90% fuel load here, Sam, I don't know if a 1-stop can be possible. It's around 36 laps around this track with 100% fuel load. So I think it's going to be around 32 is the max you can go with the 90%, and maybe 33, 34, but 2-stopper looks like it's not going to be possible without a caution. If you get a caution, a 1-stopper definitely could be possible, but, you know, and Sam, you mentioned who are we going to see come down pit road first? I think it's going to be some of the back riders right now who are staying to the back trying to save their tires, or maybe you're just trying to undercut it, get in front of the leaders, and maybe hope for a caution, or extend their lead from the leaders as much as they can from there.
Speaking about those drivers that started a little bit further back, leading the drivers that did not qualify, started back at 33rd position. Patrick Hasty, he's now up to 29th position as we're watching on board with Trey Jackson. And just looking at this field where they're at, we're starting to see those little pockets and packs that you usually start to see at super speedways, but it's anywhere from 3 to 8 drivers in a pack trying to work with one another, cutting their way through this field.
You know, and Sam, right now, we looked on board of the 33 of Essery earlier. Look at this train in front of them and going on right now. All these cars just in a huge train right now, almost 3 wide going into 3, really battling for positions. This is about, I mean, 7, 8 cars right now, all looking for that same spot right now. Man, this could be crazy right here, Sam, right now with the 23 of Grimm and the 53 of Christopher Wade leading out this pack right now, but it's too wide, around 3 rows deep right now, side by side. This could get sketchy, Sam.
Drivers keeping themselves close with one another. You've got that of Wade, Grimm, Grimes, and Metcalf. Metcalf's been doing a great job moving his way forward. One of those drivers that started back in 22nd position up to 15th, and now they're thinking about 3 wide, going extremely low. That looks to be that of Travis Dart. Got to be careful with what types of moves he's trying to make on the outside, being passed by Mike Lynch. And these drivers all just picking and choosing, and this is the best moment to make these passes, as from 13th on back, they're pretty close to one another, all within a second, all the way back to 20th. So that's 7 drivers all on top of one another, trying to make as many moves as possible. But with them being side by side, I think, Hunter, we're starting to see it. They're losing touch to that lead pack.
Oh, definitely. And being side by side with somebody is just going to lose you as much time as possible when you're side by side with them, since you can't get the full length of your line that you want, where you enter the corner as low as you can, but then slide up as high as you can to keep the momentum going. When you're side by side with someone, you can't slide up because the car is on your outside, and unfortunately you lose time from it. And same thing with the person on the outside line who isn't even in the preferred groove. So that's where you lose the time. But right now, leaders always love seeing cars side by side, or even more in their mirrors, knowing that they can pull away even more.
Use up your tires, be side by side, warm up to those right sides, and just knock them down. On board, looking at the nose and the rear end of the 33 of Essary. We're on the nose of Dana Messick, and looking at some of these drivers and how they've been attacking this season. Again, this is race number 7 this season. We've had a lot of different winners showing up. 2 drivers that have won twice. Now Scott Rickard as well as Nick Holland. Rickard's taking the lead as we were looking at the middle of the pack and all their madness, but we're seeing a car trying to run low, trying to make the pass forward, but that of Jason Ricketts just losing ground, falling back.
Now, Sam, we always mention him too, coming out in the middle of the longer runs, never really in the short runs, is the 12 of Andrew Medlin up to 3rd right now, applying the pressure of the 88 of McNally, but also the 68 of Holland behind him as well. Right now, Rickard's definitely liking what he sees right now with 3 cars battling right now for position. But right now, I mean, the 12 of Medlin is kind of like a silver fox where he comes out later in the run and just starts passing people and picking them off and battling for the lead later in the run. And I think he's always your best shot when there's a long green flag run.
And all the drivers in line, that of Medlin as well as Nick Holland, and also that of Derek Offerman, all of them trying to utilize the draft, really putting on some pressure on that Timmy McNally, our pole sitter, here this evening, and all of them are running pretty similar lap times to our leader. But for Scott Rickard, he's got to be feeling comfortable. He's a second ahead. That means that the drivers behind him are not getting any draft help as we're looking at the battle currently for 7th place. These guys need to get within 6-7 tenths if they want any little piece of that draft, because currently they're just battling one another. As here comes Holland to the inside of the 12 for that 3rd place position, going through 3.
Yeah, and I mean, these 2 drivers right here, the 68 of Medlin, battling really hard for that win last week at Martinsville, still not giving each other an inch, still racing for position right now. But, you know, as the leader, Scott Rickard now almost over, I mean, he's 1.4 seconds now in front of the leaders. Now they're side by side behind him. He's just going to keep pulling away even more. This is where the strategy comes in for the 05, where he's just got to run it dry on fuel, run it on fumes the best he can, and then so he can have the freshest tires over the field and come back and take that lead again. But the only problem is, Sam, is the drivers that undercutted and are 4 to 5 seconds out in front.
Yeah, I mean, Pocono is one of those racetracks where you can pit and not go a lap down if you're close enough to the leader. So you got to really think, hey, if you pit, take some tires, pit twice, you might have enough time to gain up to our leader, as that last lap, Scott Rickard, about a full second off of what his best time was. And we're only 13 laps into this run, showing that tire wear is starting to kick in a lot more. And so for some of the drivers that are further back, feeling that dirty air and the tightness through the corners, they're wearing out those tires a lot quicker. So they're a little bit more than maybe our leader's just a second off, but some of the rest of the field, they're about a second and a half off their best time, some even 2 seconds off.
Yeah, and that time by there, Sam, the 50 or the 05 of Rickard was a whole tenth and a half off of the 88 of McNally, who's now pulling away from the 12 and the 68 now. Somehow just got a sense of speed and now is pulling away. It looks like he saved his stuff much better than the cars in front and behind him right now. Let's see if he can keep this momentum, keeping forward and catching this 05. But, you know, as you mentioned, almost a full second off of what he ran at the beginning of the race. And that's very important to keep the times as low as possible when we're not even halfway through the run yet.
No, not at all. Ken Campbell, as you saw, getting by that of Offerman. Offerman's about to be possibly losing another position to that of Travis Butt in 00. He's hoping to continue his greatness that he's been showing here recently. Travis Butt, he won back at Las Vegas, and even before that, the 00 was looking quick, and he is another one of those drivers. Once we come to the mile-and-a-half courses are larger, he is always a threat to see how these drivers are going to attack. But we are now 15 laps in, about halfway through lap 15, and looking at the field, that of Brian Chu, excuse me, he had his issue coming off of lap 1, which dropped him back, losing time. He's now a full half a second back from our leader just in 15 laps.
Yeah, and like you touched on earlier, Sam, with the strategy of how you couldn't, you could almost stay on the lead lap even if you're late back in the. Oh, so we got a
Oh,
caution, Sam.
well, we thought strategy was going to be a good call, but it's going to be that of Brandon. Woo, Messick as drivers slicing and dicing as the 21. Almost forgot about a brake to be utilized. But more drivers collided in, and I mean, that's just, well,
That was crazy there, Sam.
I don't understand. We have brakes. Also, yellow's out. I don't understand. It just doesn't make sense. As that's going to be Beverly blowing up his engine, and he's going to have to use a fast repair early here. That wasn't even what brought out our yellow. Our yellow coming from that of Messick and others having their racing incident, trying to go 3 wide through turns 3. It was actually Mark Beverly that made contact with Messick, bringing out this yellow. We're going to be seeing the drivers coming down, and going to see Mark Beverly going low. Messick's trying to cover the best that he can, but a little bit of a bump to the 21. I think they were expecting a little bit more room, but you usually don't want to go 3 wide into turn 3.
Oh, definitely not where it's a flat out track where you don't have the grip like you do in turn 1 and even 2. And unfortunately, yeah, just no help. Or it looks like the 21 got some help from the 51 there and sent them both around, unfortunately. But, nowhere to go right there for the 23. I mean, or of Beverly. I mean, just comes out, he can't see anything. And right here, he comes down the track and, oh.
I'm trying to understand what his mindset was, because he could see the car stuck there, not moving, and he just drove right into the lane that he was in. He had plenty of time to run high. I mean, even the one of Ricketts showed that you can go high there. We're all baffled. Caution comes out. First caution of the day. Pit road is busy, and looking like that of Scott Rickard, his lead that he once had. It is now gone. They're going to have to reset, but whew.
And not only that, Sam, but the damage the 21 had from that hit was not much.
Yeah, it was minimal.
That is one of the craziest things. That was a hard lick, and his left front was really shoved down a little bit. But look at this here. The 88 of McNally falling back a ton, down to 5th now instead of the 2nd place spot he had. I think he might have overshot his stall, or maybe had some problems in his stall there, Sam.
Yeah, I believe that's exactly what happened. Overshooting and missing his stall. Also could have been the fact that, no, he did overshoot. He had to move in, back up for the 88. That's where he lost the time. Those little mistakes can just get costly, as went from battling for 3rd and 2nd to now back to 5th position for Timmy McNally. First caution of the day. Drivers getting set and ready to go here. Hunter, this is a lot better than what we saw from last week. I mean, last week we had over 17 cautions, and now this week we made it 17 laps, and then we had our caution.
Looks like 17 is going to be our lucky number here, Sam. And yeah, I mean, that was really good racing overall. A lot of drivers giving room and getting single filed out, making some passes, and some drivers electing to save their tires a lot more than what you would see at Martinsville, where a track where tire wear is so important. And you saw that 88 was doing so well with his tire saving and catching the 05 every single lap before that caution. So, I mean, there's so many drivers looking for the long run, some drivers looking towards the mid run, and some even the short run. But this is a place where, if we see a full fuel run happen after this caution, we might see some drivers coming up to the front with some tire saving strategies that they've implemented at the beginning of the race as well.
Drivers getting set up. This is a major helpfulness for Brian Chu, who's going to be able to get restacked with everyone else. But we are stacked, ready to go as these car lights are off. We're going into turn number 1. Hunter, again, the ruling for these drivers, you cannot go 3 wide until you go through turn 1 and onto the back stretch, and then you can start to get a lot more frisky for these drivers. That takes away such a weapon that is kind of known here at Pocono of drivers setting up that turn 1 and trying to force the issue.
Oh, definitely, and we see it all the time in the actual Cup Series is drivers forcing a 3-4 wide on a restart that's so crucial. And and the drivers now have that taken away from them, it's going to be interesting to see how aggressive then they are on the backstretch, maybe making it 3-4 right as they get out of one. But with the race being so early still, even 18 laps in, give me 19 when they take the green, I don't see it happening this early yet, Sam.
Kind of scratching my head. I'm trying to figure out what happened to Travis Butt, because he's all the way back in 32nd position for the 0-0. Issues for himself, and an odd call to see, but it's one of those things where drivers now are going to have to see after this first pit stop. Some fresh rubber for up front. You got to see how your tire wear was, if it was good, bad, or ugly. Pace car is off, green flag back in the air, and it's going to be that of Scott Rickard as well as Andrew Medlin pulling away from the rest of the field. You got Ken Campbell, Timmy McNally. They're slicing and dicing up here in our top 4. They're single file, but it's back to 6 where drivers are side by side.
And overall, yet again, you're saying we just see some drivers still saying side by side because this restart, but some drivers trying to get single filed out the best they can. Not much 3-wide action going on at all. It looks like, oh no.
Oh boy, looking like some drivers getting themselves out of sorts. As we're taking a look back to see exactly what brought out this yellow. It looks like it came from Josh Warner coming down, and poor 21 Messick. Brandon Messick had a great run last week, gaining a lot of points, trying to put himself in a better spot. And Josh Warner and Brandon Messick contact. They did not go off of the racing surface, so our ticker was not told what the heck happened, but both drivers made contact out of turn number 1 and found themselves sliding through the corner, and luckily they got straightened out, but damage to the 21, who already probably didn't want to use more to get more damage for himself.
Oh, definitely not, Sam, and especially when you only have one fast repair. Maybe he took it after that wreck. It's unfortunate for him if that happened to him, because now he's out of fast repairs and has a damaged race car anyway, so very unfortunate for the 21 after having such a good run last Thursday at Martinsville.
Trying to look back and see if I can get a good shot of if the 21 still, if he used it on that last restart or not. And looks like possibly did use it for himself, but yeah, re-looking at it, Messick had already used his fast repair, expecting not to get into any contact, and immediately when we go green, it went from damage on his driver's side, on the driver's left, to now damage on the right side for Messick. So everyone else out there besides that of Haas Beverly, they're all should still have a fast repair to work with for themselves. But we'll stack them up, try one more time here as the drivers are getting set. Hunter, we're going to give ourselves a little bit of a break here talking, as drivers might see some come in, top off with fuel, but we will be right back with a little bit of a commercial break. And when we come back, we'll be going green with a little bit less than 40 laps to go. It's going to be Scott Rickard, Medlin, Holland, Campbell, and McNally are top 5. Green flag back in the air. Update for some of the drivers further back. Chris Essery has dropped out, and it looks like internet issues for the 33 and the 21 of Brandon Messick. He is also going to be parking it for the day. Too much damage for the 21. And I would park it too after the 2 incidences he was involved in, but everyone's single filing up until he dropped back to Paul House, 9th place. And back to 10th, side-by-side action for all those drivers.
And another really good restart for the 05 of Rickard, pulling away about 0.3 to half a second behind the 12 of Medlin. Medlin closing the door a little bit right now. But Medlin now behind the pressure again like he was earlier with the 68 right behind him as well. The same thing happened earlier with the 12, always having the pressure and 68 behind him. But, you know, Sam right now, really, really good run for the 15 of Ken Campbell. We haven't seen this previously, but right now running inside the top 4, having a really good run for himself in front of the 88 of McNally.
Ken Campbell, one of the first drivers that started outside the top 10 and got into the top 10 as he has started in 11th up to 4th. Great showing for himself. Our pole sitter, though, Timmy McNally, he's back in 5th. Weird to see the 88 this far back after his pit road issues after our first caution. And for Ken Campbell, I mean, yeah, like you said, this is great to see him. He coming in to be 16th in points. Ken Campbell, he's got 1 top 5, 2 top 10s for himself coming into this race. So getting another one notched on his belt, helping him try to get into the top 12 of points. A solid run for Ken Campbell. He needs to keep this up as drivers continue to race themselves around here. I'm interested to see this, Hunter, but Travis Butt, who is running around our top 10, that 00 that tag actually came into pit road under our last our last caution, just to top off for the 00. He's looking like he's trying to stretch this as long as he can.
You know, and Sam, that might be a smart call if this race stays green. You know, he's going to lose a lot of time when he stays out for all those laps that he's now made up with the fuel. Around 17 laps, maybe a little bit more, around 19 actually, but you know, if he stays out 19 more laps than the leaders, he's going to lose so much time on the tires. But you know, he'll have 19 lap fresher tires. But Sam, I don't know, I think he would have too far back of a lead. Maybe he might just stretch it out 5, 6 more laps than when everyone else comes out, just to have a little bit more of a tire advantage, but not 19 lap difference.
Another one of those drivers that qualified pretty well, but has dropped back. That's going to be that of Brian Burchett, who's going to be in 22nd position. We're watching the battle for 22nd as that of Thomas Valles is trying to catch up and make the pass. And in front of these guys, a little bit of shuffling. You've got Schwartz, Lynch, and Mike Lynch and Brian Lynch. They're all trying to battle one another. And all the way down below, that's the 00 of Travis Butt, just trying to sling his way around on that shot. But looking on board, still, this is crazy to see some of these drivers that did not qualify as well as they could have, but still having great charges forward. The leaders of the drivers that did not put a qualifying time down, Eric Schwartz, currently watching and on board with that 13 machine, looking back at Mike Lynch. Started back in 34th position, now up to 19th place. It's not about how you start this race sometimes, but it certainly is a journey to get to the end.
Definitely. Now we can see the 2 dive down into the inside of the 13 of Schwartz. Looks like he's gonna clear him. Maybe not. He's gonna get the run on the exit now with the 13 of Schwartz. He's gonna be side by side going on the front stretch. Look how close they are. Almost dooring. But man, I mean, some of the driving up towards the back is a little bit more aggressive right now than we see towards the front here, Sam. And right now drivers just, like you said, it's not where you start the race, it's where you finish it. Right now, some drivers maybe in the back trying to make it as many spots as they can right now, so they'll be there at the end.
Yeah, and the aggression level has to be picking up for these guys, recognizing, hey, if I'm stuck behind a driver, yes, I could save fuel, but if they're not running as fast as the pace I want to run as our leaders, I need to make these passes now, and that's why we're seeing the 2 of Mike Lynch being so aggressive against that of Schwartz. And well, it helps when you have a little bit of help from the drivers around you, as you've got that of Mike Lynch and Brian Lynch trying to make each other work and push further. And right now, Schwartz is stuck on the outside. Schwartz, he's been a magnet of just wrecks. It's not always his fault for the incidences, but he has been probably caught up around the most wrecks all season long. Yet somehow the 13 big props to him. He's running in the top, the stages of the drivers, of those that are up front. I mean, he's 14th in points coming into this race, running in 19th now, but hey, showing that a faster pair can change your whole race, even if you're having major troubles for most of the first half.
And looking at that onboard earlier with the 13-ish war, we used to know how iconic Pocono was for downshifting into third with the previous packages in the Cup cars and the Xfinity cars. But right now, looking at him, it looks like the RPMs weren't too low for the gear to be too tall to get the most, or the best exit that you want to get the RPMs all the way up to carry all that speed through. So he kept it in fourth gear. It might have been a little bit taller than he liked, but it kept more momentum than shifting down into third gear and losing all that time. But I remember racing in the packages where you had to downshift in the third to carry that car through the corner. But right now it looks like these Xfinity cars are fourth gear all around.
Do you think also it could be the fact that they're still on kind of fresher tires than what we were seeing earlier, as that caution did come around around lap 16? That brought out our first caution, but these guys might be thinking about, hey, once we're about 20 laps onto a run, or even 25 laps, do you think once they've got that much wear and their pace is slowed down, they might think about shifting down?
Maybe if they really want to get the best run on exit, they can. But with a package like this where the engine just isn't that strong of horsepower compared to the packages where they had to downshift, they might be doing it. I don't know. I haven't driven this car at Pocono in a long time, but last time I know it wasn't downshifting into third at a track, even in the much later runs with older tires. But some drivers do prefer even going down into third anyways at this track, even if it's just muscle memory or if it's just their preference. Some drivers like doing it anyways.
Talked about the other two lynches of that of Mike and Brian. Well, let's talk about the third lynch. Coming onto the inside, Nate Lynch trying to make a pass for 7th place against that of Mike Watt. And Watts is doing a great job in the 84 Daytona winner at the start of the season. I gotta give credit to Watts. He's really shown that even at other courses, he's got the speed to be running up front and running well. Currently 4th in points coming into this race. He's only missed one race, and that seems to be a trend through most of this field. Is about half the field have missed at least one race, and that might be expected for a lot of these drivers, as that of Dylan Grimm into pit road as we're watching this amazing side-by-side action for 7th place. Just giving that note that Dylan Grimm coming into pit road, very odd to see the 23 into pit road now.
I'm keeping my eye on the 23 right now. It looks like he just entered his stall, locked up the brakes a little bit. Looks like he took his faster pair, had some damage in his right side, might have gotten to the wall earlier. It doesn't look like the car is getting jacked up though, Sam. It might be that he's topping off the car, or maybe he's taking tires. I don't know, but right now, 23 Cole Grims looks like he mainly went down for that faster car.
Watching the back bumper of Nate Lynch from that of Paul House's front bumper, and looking at some of these drivers, as you see Paul House, Dr. House in the building for the 18. For that of Paul House, another one of those drivers coming into this race has shown up for every race, only has one top 10, this season for the 18, but he has shown that he has got qualifying pace, but it's that race pace that we've been kind of hoping that would show up for this 18 team, and we're still just waiting as Dylan Grimm looks like he is now disconnected. And another update, Chris Essery, one of those drivers we touched on that disconnected. He's reconnected, been out there on track for 6 laps. It's good to see the 33 out there, but he's 5 laps down. We need a lot of caution helps to get him back out on the lead lap.
Well, definitely, right now, 05 of Rickard, about keeping that half a second lead between the 12 of Medlin. The 68 of Holland is still 1/10 behind the 12 of the 12 of Medlin, oh man, it's like the 68 just can't escape the 12, and the 12 can't escape him either. And right now, the 05 of Rickard, I bet he wants to see this battle the leaders between, but right now it looks like the 68 is just going to stick behind him as much as he can.
It's looking like maybe a little bit of this could be the fact that the drivers, just for that of Nick Holland, might be thinking about long-term and big plays here of saving his tires by staying behind the 12 and then hoping that he doesn't get himself into any situations of fuel worrying. So stay close behind. You could save a little bit more fuel, and that might be one of the calls being made here.
You know, and like last run, Sam, right now, the 12 of Medlin, a 10th faster right now than the 05 of Rickard. 68 of Holland, similar time to them, actually 100th quicker right now. That time by Medlin, a couple hundredths quicker right now. So Medlin looks like him and the 68 are much better at saving the tires than the 05 are right now during these long runs. But, you know, maybe the 05 is in the run where he burns up his tires really quick, gets them heated quicker than everybody else, lets the tires cool off in the middle run, and then pulls away again once his tires get heated back up quicker than everybody else's again in the later runs.
On the 4, we saw him make a dazzling shot to try to win back at Charlotte. Came up short, was not able to have the momentum to make the pass for the lead, but this 4 machine certainly trying to find that momentum to carry on his way forward, as he's going to be staying low, trying to get by that of our biggest mover points-wise last week, of that of Jason Metcalf, and Metcalf's holding strong, and also the 3 of Cole Grims. Grims has been looking aggressive for himself. This 3, he was falling back in the first stint, but ever since then, it has been all go. And if he can find a hole to place that 3 to make sure he can move forward, he's been doing it.
Yeah, definitely. Right now, looking on board with the 3 car of Cole Grimes. You know, he missed the race last week at Martinsville. Right now, riding behind the 4, as you can see him on board, and how long this Long Pond straightaway is at Pocono going into turn 2 right here, the tunnel turn. This turn was actually recreated like Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The 4 corners there, that rectangle-shaped track, everybody knows it holds Indianapolis 500 right here. Now turn 3, very crucial, long, sweeping, flat corner right here. This is actually inspired from the Milwaukee Mile that some not the Cup Series and the top 3 divisions in NASCAR still running, but some super late models still there. But, you know, very interesting track layout is, I'm pretty sure, I don't remember turn 1 exactly there, Sam, but definitely the most banked track in the highest speed corner you can enter.
I don't remember where it is from as well. A producer saying that it could be Trenton, but all 3 corners so different from one another. And that's what makes Pocono so special from any other track that these guys can attack here. That's tricky triangle. I mean, you touched on it, the different spaces that these tracks are from, but the degrees of banking, turn 1, 14 degrees, 18 degrees of banking for turn 2, and 6 degrees of banking for turn 3. And what those differences mean is you have to pick and choose which 2 corners you really want to focus on, make sure your car can run through, and that one corner you kind of just threw out the window. You kind of just death grip the steering wheel and hope that you hold on going through those corners.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, the flat corners is what's the most important, Sam. It's you can't carry as much speed as you can with the banking, and that it's centripetal force that's keeping you through the corner and pushing you down into that banking that lets you carry more speed around it. Kind of like a centrifuge, if you think about it, which makes you pull more G's. But when you go into flat corners, there's nothing to really push your car down into the banking to carry that speed through. That's where you got to really slow down and be easy on the gas, because you can easily spin the car around this. Right now, oh man, the 84 and the 35 almost hard on the wall out of the tunnel turn, losing a lot of time right now. But, you know, the flat corners is where you can gain and also lose the most time.
Mike Watts losing ground on the high side, just continuing to fall back into the clutches of the 6-5 drivers that are all here. And we're starting to see that wear and tear for some of these guys. They have been 20 laps on these tires. And for a lot of these drivers, after our second caution, did not come into pit road to get any service done of topping off fuel. So as I touch on that, though, quick caution comes out, and looks like that of Rickett as well as that of Haas Beverly. Contact between those 2 drivers coming out of turn 4, and it looks like it really started off of Rickett's coming off of turn number 3. contact for the 1 and came down and collected the 22. Both these drivers, hard contact for both, but I think that for Beverly got the worst of it.
Yeah, definitely. And you see the one car coming into the pits after that incident. Looks like he's not going to take the fast repair, but he's going to take his tires now, which is a smart time. Now he'll be out in front of the field if he doesn't get held down a lap here. But unfortunately, the 22 now in his second caution involved tonight. Man, into pit road. Oh, hard into the barriers goes the 22. Oh, man.
Just the unluckiness of that pit wall that's out there is you kind of hope that you got enough space to save yourself, but coming out of turn 3, it's one of those trickier spots where, like we're going to see from the 1 once again, you hit the wall, it just launches you. It's kind of a ramp that kind of sets you up to come across the field, and for the 22 of Beverly, just nowhere to go. Ricketts also just kind of became into an autopilot mode where his car just took over, and that hard contact for Beverly, that could be a race ender for the 22. Had already used his fast repair. And looks like another driver having some internet issues here tonight. Trey Jackson losing some internet. So internet seems to be one of the biggest factors here tonight, as we've already seen 2-3 drivers having internet woes. Trey Jackson, Dylan Grimm, as well as Essery, all 3 of them having some type of issue for themselves. And luckily for that of Dylan Grimm and Chris Essery, they've gotten back out on track, but Trey Jackson, he just left. It's going to take him anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes to get back into this race if he wants to get back into it.
Yeah, definitely. And Sam, like you mentioned, 4 tire sets in the pits right now, or 3 actually in the pits. They've already taken 1. So we're going to see most drivers come down. Oh, man, a 12 into the 68 going into pit road. Oh, I don't think the 68s can be very happy about that, but, you know, they're going to take, it looks like most drivers are going to take their second set here only halfway through. They're only going to have 1 more set left for this race, Sam. What are you thinking?
I'm just baffled on the fact that there was contact between Nick Holland and Andrew Medlin. Those battle for second place. It looked like that of Medlin was showing that he was not going to come into pit road, then last second cut down and was not clear, making contact between those 2 drivers. But I'm liking this pit stop. I mean, if you come in now, I think a lot of these drivers, if you're thinking about making a split in the rest of this race in half, coming in, they could think about using that last set of tires for most of the field. But some drivers, you touched on the fact that if you're going full pace, 100% fuel, about 36 laps, you were saying. But if you're backing off immediately trying to save, there might be a shot for you to try to push this thing out and be up front, leading this race, trying to not pit from here on out.
Yeah, and I think the only time they can really make that strategy work is if this race stays green, and they're going to have to save as much as they can for that to happen. But the problem is, if they might need a caution for that to happen to make sure they can do it on no more stops the rest of the race. But the only problem is, if they do that, they'll have drivers with fresh tires behind them who will easily make up time behind them from that caution. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone's going to try to save their fuel to the end of this race. But we always know fuel is a talk when it coming here to Pocono.
Absolutely. And now with the drivers all having 1 set left, if we start to see cautions continuing to come out, it seems like if we do stay green anywhere from 17 laps into a run to 20 laps into a run, a yellow is going to come out from someone making a mistake of contact, either with Wall or another driver. But we saw after our first caution a quick incident of drivers making contact through turns, coming out of turn 1. So it's still possible for us to get a lot of quick yellows to come out of this thing. And I do want to give a big thank you to all of our sponsors, ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. Use the promo code FreakyFast20. That's Freaky with 2 E's to get yourself 20% off getting yourself a game or 2 from ButtKicker. Feel what you've been missing. And also, as we're watching these drivers race around getting stacked up, Pocono Setup Shops. Go to www.McConeySetupShops.com. Get yourself some setups to help you enhance your driving abilities, and use the promo code FFB10 for 10% off. Again, that is FFB10 for 10% off at McConey Setup Shops. Thank you to our sponsors. We're halfway through. My name is Sam Dyer. With me is Hunter Hayward. in the booth commentating with me, and in the production chair giving us all these awesome angles, graphics. It's Robert Moyer Jr., who is always on top of his game here at Freaky Fast Broadcasting. As drivers going into turn number 2, we'll do a quick rundown, as it's going to be that of Scott Rickard and Ken Campbell, your front two. Just pit road, jumping up for Ken Campbell with that of Nick Holland. Andrew Medlin going to be your second row with Derek Offerman. Timmy McNally, row 3. Row 4 going to be that of Paul House and that of Jason Metcalf. And your final row of 5. And your top 10 going to be that of Nate Lynch and Aaron Hale. Cole Grimes as well. Going to be in 11th with Chris Wade, Mike Watts, Kyle Boyling, Travis Dart, your top 15. Eric Schwartz has been one of the biggest movers of those that did not qualify. Started back in 34th position up to 16th place. What a rebound for himself. As the driver's up front, getting ready and set to go. That of Trey Jackson luckily got disconnected right before. He is now reconnected, only one lap down. As green flag in the air for these guys.
Right now, drivers still side by side like they usually are going into 2. Not many moves going on right now. It looks like the 12 is looking to almost put a 3 wide between the 15, but right now it's going to make it down on the inside. Side by side all around. Some drivers already going single file. Some, and man, the 25 almost lost it off of 1 right there. Good save by the 25 there, but it's almost side by side all around the field right now.
Aaron Hale thinking about forcing it 3 wide, but that's going to be that of Nate Lynch. Losing ground. He was trying to stay inside the top 10, but that slip up out of turn number 1. Now going to jam pack that outside group. And as they're starting to figure out how to get single file for themselves, side by side for second place, Ken Campbell, who's been running in 4th and 5th place for most of this run, he's being pressured by Nick Holland. Holland, one of our fastest drivers through practice and as well through qualified in 3rd place for the 68. As you're seeing cars just darting down below, trying to make as many moves as possible. That of Derek Offerman and that of Paul House. Got to be careful, as they've got that of Jason Metcalf just slinging his way on the inside. That 35 wants to be moving forward. He qualified in 22nd place. He's done a great job as Hale gets out of trouble for the 4 back in 9th place.
Pretty chaotic through the field right now. Some drivers trying to get a single file that as quick as they can. Some drivers trying to make up some spots right now. Like that 84, Mike Watts right now in the 13th position, trying to make up as many spots as he can inside of the 209, and he'll make that pass work. But right now, like we've seen time and time again here, Sam, single filed again.
Single file right back to where some of these drivers are loving themselves to be, because when you're single file, it seems like it's so much harder to make passes because drivers that stay in line, they've got that help from the draft. If you try to make a move, you got to make sure you've got the momentum to make these passes, because you are getting practically no help unless the teammate's behind you.
No, definitely not, especially at a track where it's so important to have a drafting partner like this, where just long sweeping straights that is so important to keep your momentum through. Oh man, the 84 sideways off of 1 right now. You can see he's pushing the car right now, and his tires really aren't liking it as much as he wants right now. But you know, the 84, we've seen it in these past couple of runs really quick in the early run. You know, he was decently fast in the longer runs, but right now, I mean, just the drivers we're seeing right now who are always quick in the later runs, like the 12 of Medlin, running comfortably in 4th right now, but for the first time in a while, Sam, behind the 68.
Yeah, going to be following behind Holland, and Holland, one of those drivers that we've seen the last 2 weeks. He might show that he's got the fast car to be running up in the top 5, but never really showing that he's got the winning pace until those final 15 laps in a run. That's when Nick Holland has really been striking these last 2 weeks, where he's gotten his win back at Charlotte 2 weeks ago, and then last week at Martinsville. It's all about just lingering and waiting until you need to pounce and strike in. For that, Nick Holland, he has been just kind of the trail car for a lot of these groups. He's been feeling pretty content to just stay behind the driver in front of him for these longer runs and just be patient. And the driver that's surprising me, that it's just who's been in the top 5 this run, Jason Metcalf. He is slowly inching his way forward, the fastest car on track. Last lap, we'll see this time around, but that 35 up to 5th place and on the tail end of our lead pack.
You know, and Sam, being the fastest car on the track, it is a really good thing to hear from someone telling you that, but the most important time really is where it matters the most is the later runs, is where drivers are just trying to keep their old tires under them, and you're trying to make up as much time as you can. Early runs mean you can be fast, but can your tires stay under you and stay fast throughout the entire run? And that's where drivers want to have it the most, is the later runs and have their tires stay with them through the entire run.
Been touching on drivers getting loose and out of control. Patrick Hasty in the 9 losing 3 positions after getting loose at a turn number 1 back at 23rd position currently. And a driver right behind him in 24th position after lap 1, turn 1. Issues for the 11, Brian Chu. He's been recovering quite well. His dad sponsoring the race here tonight with World Interiors. Thank you so much for World Interiors sponsoring today's race. That's Bubba Chu, Brian's dad, who has been running World Interiors for 45 years. That's incredible to see a business last that long. And thank you again for sponsoring today's race.
And Sam, right now, all I see around the entire field mostly is single filed out. A lot of space between all these drivers. 7 laps over halfway right now, almost at 50. They have to make it at least one more time for sure. And what do you expect to see right now? Are we going to see any major undercuts? Are we going to see any drivers run it dry and try to make it back to the lead with only around 5 to 10 laps to do it? Or what are we going to see here, Sam?
A lot of these drivers aiming to stretch it as far as they can. If anyone's going to think about undercutting, we might be seeing that pit stop here in the next 3 to 8 laps. But I think for a lot of these guys, they might be thinking about, hopefully my internet holds up, as that of Tom looks to be possibly the next driver hit with internet issues here tonight. That's going to be a total of 5 drivers that have found themselves losing some patches in the internet, which has deemed them to kick them out of the service when all 5 of those drivers were on the lead lap when that incident happens. For real life racing, you could be braking at something on your car to blowing an engine just randomly. For us, virtually, it's internet issues. That's our random chaos that can come out.
And Sam, you're a magic man. Thomas Velas just fell to the server with internet issues. I think drivers right now, if they're listening, are now freaked out if you say their name about internet issues. Now you're cursing
his name drop out, and he'd been away from the track for about a lap and a half. So I was just like, well, he's going to drop out here soon. There's no way. And he is now trying to reconnect. Hopefully won't be more than 3 laps down. But 67 of Velas, he's got to be just so angry with this. I know I've had internet issues before league racing, and it is heartbreaking when you are having such a great run, or maybe you're already having a bad day, you're running in the middle of the pack, you're just like, okay, I'm just going to salvage as many points as possible, and then get hit with internet issues. It's demoralizing, and for a lot of these guys, got to hope that the internets get fixed up by next week. And a lot of drivers understanding, hey, we're getting close to the middle of this regular season, got to start hitting your marks now.
And right now, we're looking on board right now of that 53. He was so good earlier in the season, had really good races at the very beginning, like Vegas and all of that, and not the performance we expected to see out of him at Martinsville. And right now, battling the 25 and Nate Lynch for that 12th spot. Sam, I was expecting to see that 53 up in the top 8, top 5 today.
Chris Wade, one of those drivers, like you noted on Vegas and Kansas, those 1.5-mile courses where we've seen the 53 thrive at. Again, we're at a kind of a different course. We were at short tracks for Richmond and Martinsville that kind of saw a swing off for the 53, and maybe we might be seeing the swing pendulum going the other way for Wade here going in the next couple of weeks, as we're going to be going to Dover and then Phoenix. Those are 2 racetracks completely different. Then we go to Indianapolis 3 weeks from now, and these drivers hoping to see, some type of 1.5-mile racing, but they're not going to be seeing that for at least a couple of weeks, because it is all mile or shorter racing for a while here coming up, to then Indy being that one track that's over a mile of length, and also you got Watkins Glen in about 6 weeks. So what everyone's used to, their cookie cutter tracks, we are not seeing that here for at least the 6 or 7 weeks from now.
Yeah, and this is where drivers who are into their pace at the cookie cutter tracks is where, you can see some differences of how tracks like Pocono can affect them, and that's where it's so important. But right now, look at this right now for the battle for the lead. The 05 of Rickard getting some pressure from the 15 of Ken Campbell. And don't forget it, that 68 of Nick Holland, 35 of Metcalf, and even the 12 of Medlin.
And Campbell, at the start of this run, when he got fresh rubber, he put down the fastest lap of the day of 55.272, 0.2 faster than our leader. And this go around, he's been running about a half a tenth faster than our leader, and he's been inching closer and closer. Ken Campbell looking and hoping to be a winner here this season. And the list of drivers that have won this season, pretty small. You got Watts that won our first race, then Rickard, who's won twice this season, Travis Butt, who won, and then also Nick Holland, who has won twice. So trying to etch his name possibly in the glory is that of Ken Campbell, but also moving up another position, Jason Medlin's fallen back.
And he is around half a second, maybe a little bit over, behind the 35 of Jason Metcalf, running in fourth. And right now, he's still in attacking range from the 35. Right now, it looks like it's around a 5-pack pull away right now, with the 88 of McNally around 2.5 seconds behind them. But I've never seen the 15 of Ken Campbell have this much speed right now compared to the 05 of Rickard, who's been really quick week in and week out. Even the 68 of Holland. I mean, all these drivers right now that are in the top 5 are drivers we see there. Oh no, the 15 in the wall out of the tunnel turn.
Just could not hold on. The grip wasn't there. Ken Campbell losing time, falling back, and it was looking like a great showing for himself. Might be going up in smoke, as with that type of a damage, aero damage, so important to not get at this course as the draft. Probably one of the biggest factors besides tires.
Yeah, and that shows how much grip they really don't have in the later runs. It's only lap 54, 53 when that incident occurred, but man, that went up in smoke, like you said, with the 15. I don't see much damage on his right side right now, but thankfully he didn't get into the wall like we saw, but all that time he lost right there, now behind the 35, Sam, it shows where the grip levels are and how easy you can overstep the car and either spin it or get into the wall.
Yeah, re-looking at it, there is, looks to be no damage to the 15, but certainly a scare. And when you get that close to the wall, you have to back off, otherwise you're going to get damage for yourself. Chris Essery, who was 4 laps down, and actually I think at one moment he was 5 laps down, had to come back into pit road, get service done for the 33 machine. Also another update for the drivers further back, that of Thomas Valles, was able to reconnect and get back out there. But looking back at Ken Campbell, I mean, this was one of his best runs so far since Daytona, where he got a 5th place finish. And now we're looking at some of the other amazing battles going on course. The battle for 24th we're seeing, in 23rd. Actually, I take that back, because that's actually Dylan Grimm that's running back here for the battle of 24th. Because that's Josh Warner and also Brian Burchett. Burchett, he just fell off a rock, it seems like. Qualified 8th, and it seems like the qualifying pace was there for the 223. It's that race pace that these drivers, it's so difficult to find that balance of being fast for one lap and being consistent throughout a whole race.
Yeah, and some drivers definitely, some drivers struggle to see the difference between qualifying pace and race pace, where race pace is so much more important than setting down 2 quick laps. And unfortunately, some drivers not getting into that step of making sure that their race pace is there with the leaders. The 223 is quick week in and week out, like we saw these past couple of races. Right now, it looks like he's just struggling with his car.
Looking at some of the little packs that we have throughout the field, I'm keeping my eye out for 6th back to 12th. It's Timmy McNally, House, Grimes, as well as Offerman, Lynch, Hale, and Wade. Those drivers mingling around one another. You can see House trying to figure out how to get by that of McNally, and McNally seeing in front of him a great battle for 4th position. Ken Campbell, Medlin, they're side by side trying to duke out that, as it looks like that of Campbell got the better run out of 3, but into turn 1, it's looking like Medlin's figuring out, I gotta go now. I'm losing the traction of our front 3.
Yeah, and that's so important with keeping up with the leaders, especially staying right behind them, knowing what they're doing, to be able to know how to save your stuff and what they're doing with their line and how they're attacking the corners. And that's so important because you know what they're doing while also saving more tire than they are. And right now, I think that's what Medlin has always done week in and week out. Even earlier in this race today, but right now, maybe some troubles in the restart now. 2 seconds behind this lead pack, and behind the 15 of Campbell, who, he's running that Campbell suit paint scheme there. Maybe with some correlation changes. That would be awesome. I like me some Campbell suit. But right now the 15 of Campbell, I think after getting into the wall, might have overheated his tires a little bit too much, and now unfortunately falling back.
He's doing a great job defending, though. Got to give credit for Ken Campbell. Again, trying to get his best finish this season. His previous best was a 5th place finish at Daytona to start the season off. Ever since then, it's been a try to get a rebound here or there for the 15, as a little bit of bump drafting as they're heading into turn number 2. This is around the spot that we saw the 15 have back out. Make sure he didn't get into the outside wall, and you're just seeing the pack behind inching closer and closer as here comes that of Medlin to the inside for the 12 over the 15. And it looks like he finally secured this pass as Campbell's trying to inch a little bit closer, trying to stay on the quarter panel, and wasn't able to do so.
It just looks like the 12 of Medlin has so much better tire right now than the 15 of Campbell. But right now, and it looks like some drivers are starting to come down, like the 4 you saw right here of Aaron Hale coming down. I think this is a good call for the 4 because, you still have 20 laps to do it, or to make your way up to the front, and you still got 20 laps to go, and he's going to look like he's going to come around as the undercut, depending on the gap he had between the leaders. But, you still want some breathing room, Sam. You want some breathing room of laps to go. I mean, you don't want to run it dry and have 5 laps to go and then drive those 5 laps to the lead. You need some breathing room of laps to go to be able to make your way back up to the lead.
Yeah, and right now these drivers have been out there for quite a while. Right now, Scott Rickard has been running almost 2 seconds off of his best time, as we're seeing Medlin falling back to the clutches of the drivers for 5th place on back into pit road. It's going to be Ken Campbell who is running up there for the 4th place position, but Hale, Chu all came in this last time by, trying to get their service done. And a lot more following suit. It's Mike Watts, the 84, who had been up front as well in the top 10 into pit road. This is around the time that these drivers splitting this race in half from the last time they came into pit road. So this is kind of expected for those drivers that are undercutting, which is for the drivers that are going to be stretching it out. If they do stretch it out as long as possible, it looks like it might be that 5-lap window, but it could work out if you're thinking about just a splash and go.
I mean, it could, Sam, especially how you'll have a much bigger tire difference. But, I don't know the gap. And as you see the 68 of Holland now coming down, trying to undercut it over the 05, because he'll definitely have now that 2 seconds to make up on the tires. Then they're the 2-second quicker tires he'll have for that next lap by than the 05 will. But, Sam, it would be very interesting to see some driver runs it dry like the 05 of Rickard. But, if you have a 5-lap pace to do it, or 5-lap gap to do it, to make it up to the leader, someone who undercut it is going to be seconds away. I mean, they're having 30-lap fresher tires than you every single lap. They're going to be pulling away up until the time you take your tires. So unless you're running faster than qualifying laps, Sam, I don't think there's going to be a driver out here who's going to run it dry being comfortable.
Not at all, as we're actually going to move up to the battle that's for 5th place. They're thinking about 3 wide. Here comes that of Grimes to the inside. The 3, a little bit of contact on that of Derek Offerman. Offerman, House, got to be careful, as well as that of Nate Lynch. Mixed and mingled as there goes that of McNally into pit road. But oh my goodness, I thought for a second we were going to see a wreck going into turn 3, which would be a disaster for some of these drivers that have already pitted for themselves. If you pit already, your goal for this race to go green so you can utilize the undercut that you've already done.
Yeah, it's some hard racing right now between the 25 and Nate Lynch and the 3 of Cole Grimes. Grimes almost under the wall, riding all up against it as much as he can. Right now, as we can see on board with the 18 of Dr. House. Man, this is some hard racing going here. And, you know, some drivers right here, maybe 25 or the 3 once they're going to pit road this lap. It'll be interesting to see what happens with these drivers and when they want to go. But right now, it's still some hard racing, even right before the pit window opens up.
They're still right on top of one another. Other drivers that came into pit road with that of McNally was Jason Metcalf, who came in, as well as that of Burchett and others further back in the field. Here comes Offerman, here comes House, both coming into pit road. A little bit of just a wiggle for House. Thought maybe he could make a mistake. He's still struggling to get to speed for himself. As you thought maybe he had control, and it just kept on getting a little bit more kinked out, but utterly held on. Also, now Eric Schwartz going to be coming into pit road. And now's the question, when will Scott Rickard come in? Because he's been the fastest driver on course, even without the draft. When he gets fresh rubber compared to those that have pitted early on the undercut, how much time does he really want to have to try to run down these other drivers that should have the lead over him?
Well, at most, it's going to be 17 to go if he goes down pit road this time by. But, you know, oh man, the drivers who went down like the 68 of Holland multiple laps ago are going to have that tire advantages. Here comes the 05 of Rickard finally coming down pit road. 17 laps to catch the 68, but multiple laps down pit road for the 68, or who came down pit road multiple laps ago. I mean, that's 2 seconds a lap, like you mentioned, Sam. It's going to be a lot of time that the 05 is going to have to make up to the 68, especially now when it was only a 4-lap tire difference. I don't know if he can make up a 4 to 5 second gap.
It's not even just that gap. It's not like he's trying to run down someone. He's got to get by 4 or 5 different drivers. Ken Campbell leading the drivers that have already pitted. It's Scott Rickard getting service, finally about to take off soon, as those drivers that have already pitted coming down the front stretch. Up front, though, it's Nate Lynch that we're watching on screen with that of Wade and Mark Beverly. They're just cruising along for themselves. But leading the charge of drivers, Ken Campbell. Scott Rickard is going to fall back to behind Jason Metcalf. So that is 1, 2, 3, 4 drivers that Scott Rickard's got to figure out how to get by. But luckily for him, he's got at least 2 tires, fresher tires than Metcalf. And the most, Aaron Hale, who's in 11th place. But all 4 of those drivers in line of our front 4 that are running so well. And it's looking pretty good as Mike Lynch comes into pit road. Hunter, I mean, we're coming up to 15 laps to go once our leaders come across the line again. There looks like there's enough time, but it is going to be a hard-fought battle for the rest of the drivers to try to hold back the 05.
Yeah, definitely. And if you look at the 8th and 9th spot right now of Campbell and Holland, now the 6th and 7th, 5th and 6th spot now. There's a lot of drivers that are coming down pit road. Look at the ticker and how far they away from the leader and how much time they're making up during that entire lap. I mean, just tenths of a second all the time around the track right now. Right now the 15 in the Campbell is going to cycle out as the leader if he can stay in front of the 68 of Holland. You know, it's going to be 15 to go next time by, Sam. Man, that 05 of Rickard is pretty far back. This is going to be interesting.
Start already notifying he's going to come in. The biggest difference between Rickard and the rest of the drivers is they'd have, oh no, Metcalf into the wall for the 35, losing ground. And if a yellow comes out, Rickard's going to be in a great position for himself, as that and Nate Lynch, Travis Dart coming into pit road, getting service done for themselves. But a caution could honestly change things, and it looks like the 35 out of shape, and this is great for that of Rickard because he now has the draft to utilize. He can try to gain a little bit more time by staying behind the 35.
And you see him now look down low, showing his nose there on the inside. 35's not going to give it to him as much as he wanted. Now side by side, almost contact between them. They're going to keep it safe. And right now the 35 going to carry the momentum through one 1, actually, not 1 and 2. My apologies, but here comes the 5 again, looking on the inside, going into the tunnel turn, letting his nose be seen, but can he keep it carried through? No, he can't. The 35 of Metcalf's still really quick in the corners.
Also, while we're watching this great battle, that of Nick Holland, he has made the pass on Ken Campbell and had a lap fresher tires in the 15. Will Holland do it once again 3 times in a row? 15 laps left in a race. He makes the final pass.
And this is very important for the 68 of Holland. Now he's going to try to pull away as much as he can from the 15. Now about 3-4 car lengths already between the 15 of Campbell. This is where you just want to start mirror driving, or not even mirror driving, just getting out of your mirror and hitting your marks, pulling away from the drivers, but not using up your tires too much. You still got 14 more laps to do it. And, the 53 of Wade, the 51 of Beverly still have not came down pit road yet. This is very, very crucial. Some drivers might be saving. The 53 of Wade has a 25-second gap right now as the 51 of Beverly looks like he's coming down pit road. 24 and a half second gap. Never mind the 51 is not coming down, but it's about a second and a half, almost 2 seconds every lap, Sam.
Yellow flag comes out, and it's Mike Lynch coming out of turn number 1. And he tried his best to try to get by the 13 of Schwar, and it just did not go well for the 2, as we'll see it on our replay. But, man, what we were hoping for did not come out. As here's the battle currently. I mean, this is going to change a lot of things for these drivers. You're going to see the 2 just getting loose out of trouble. And this was a battle for back at 17th position between the 2 of Mike Lynch and that of Eric Schwar, and bringing out a late yellow, which now puts everyone in a bind because Christopher Wade, Mark Beverly, they're both going to come down, have a set left, as well as looking at Travis Butt's going to have a set left for himself. Biggest issue, though, they're going to be all the way back in around 23rd position. That is a lot of time to try to gain up, but it is possible here at Pocono. You can gain a lot of time, fresh tires, on the outside of other drivers that have older ones.
Yeah, Sam, and it looks like it's going to be around 8 to 9 laps when they take the green again after this restart. If they're going to be way out in the back, maybe in the 20s, looks like they're going to be 23rd, maybe in the high teens, maybe the mid 20s, but that 9 laps is really asking it with only, they have a huge tire difference here, but I think they're going to need multiple cautions, Sam.
It's drivers that are in our top 10. The driver with the best tires, that's Scott Rickard. If you look back in the top 15, that's when we look back at that of Nate Lynch in 14th position. He's going to have himself 2 lap fresher tires than 05, but that's a 7-car difference between where they are going to be gapped between one another. But Wade, Beverly, like I said, they're going to be back in 23rd position. It just seems a little bit too far back, but this puts Scott Rickard in an awesome position. As the drivers still wait to see when they're going to come into pit road. It looks like they're going to be coming in this time by. Question is, who decides to come in and get themselves possibly topped off? If someone decided to get a little bit risky, someone I know that we have at least 3-4 drivers that still have a set left. Question is, how far can they push it forward? Because honestly, with the tire difference that we're going to be seeing, a lot of these drivers completely 1 to 3 laps difference on tires, I'm expecting the aggression level, not even because we're in the leader half of this race, but just because of that fresher tire difference. Some drivers are going to get way too aggressive here, and I'm expecting these cautions to just continue to roll out. It could put us even into overtime scenario.
Yeah, and if overtime occurs, Sam, it's going to be interesting to see if some drivers just hit a splash and go, plus their 4 tires of fuel, just to make it to the scheduled amount of laps. And that's going to be interesting to see if some drivers did that. And if overtime occurs, a couple more laps, that's 5 miles, maybe even more. And that's asking a lot when you're pushing it on a tank that's only supposed to go 80 laps instead of 83 plus.
13 laps to go. It's something that we didn't think was going to happen, but came out after green flag pit stops were almost completely cycled through. Spinning out number 2 of Mike Lynch comes out, brings us all back together, and there's our top 15 runs out. You've got that of Nick Holland in first position, Ken Campbell in second, Aaron Hale going to be in fourth place. Scott Rickard with the best looking tires in our top 10 going to be in fourth position, with that of Jason Metcalf, who I'm surprised did not decide to come in and try to use a fast repair for that 35. He's going to have to try to just hunker down and try to do the best that he can, as he does not have any more sets of tires left. With that of Aaron Medlin going to be in sixth position, Derek Hoffman in seventh, Timmy McNally in eighth place, with Cole Grimes going to be in ninth, Dr. House 10th place in top 10. Kyle Boyling's going to be in 11th, with that of Nate Lynch, who's going to be in the best of shape of all the drivers that did not pit under this caution. He's going to be in 12th position. Patrick Hasty going to be in 13th, Eric Schwarr in 14th, and finishing out your top 15 is Brian Lynch. Hunter, the drivers that did pit, Wade's going to be back in 19th position, Beverly in 20th, Travis Butt going to be in 21st. Those are the drivers that we're going to have in mind on how well they can cut their way through. And also Brian Chu in 22nd place. He had an extra set on the lead lap, leaving us with 25 drivers on the lead lap here this evening. Another driver. Those are your 3 that are going to be on the move, 4, here late in this race. Is when we go green, it's going to be less than 10 laps to go. Hunter, we've seen a lot of things here tonight. What are you expecting to see in this last mad dash to the end?
Well, definitely you got to keep your eyes on that 53, the 11 of Chu. I mean, all these drivers who now came down after this caution we did not expect. Keep an eye out for that 05 of Rickard. Was in trouble after having that pit stop, and that undercut, unfortunately, was so far behind the 68. I don't know if he would be able to catch him if that caution to come out, so let's see what kind of moves he makes, as well as the 15 of Ken Campbell having such a good run for himself today as well. But man, there is so much tiring strategies going on right now. Speed with drivers. I mean, this is going to be an interesting restart, but also they can't make any moves until the backstretch here, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, right now I'm looking at that of Trey Jackson. What a recovery. He was one of 5 drivers that disconnected during this race. Luckily, it happened under yellow with the lucky dog spot, the 31 back up front. The drivers are here through turn 3, and they are getting set and ready to go. Pace car pulls off. The World Interior 200 is green with 9 laps to go. Tires are going to be completely wild and wacky. It's all about your driving skill and how well can you defend with the drivers with fresher tires behind you. Going into turn number 1, it's going to be side by side for second place on back.
And the 05 of Rickard still abusing the rear bumper of the 15. Now going to slide down right in front of Jason Metcalf. Man, the Metcalf let him slide a little bit there, but now on the back bumper of the 4 of Aaron Hale. I mean, look how far away the 68's pulling already after this. Looks like the 05 is trying to get around, but he just has no room to make a move right now. As the 15 of Ken Campbell is now going to try to make it work on the outside, and it looks like he will.
Scott Rickard right on the back bumper of Hale, almost sending him around, but the drivers got to stay patient, especially for that of Rickard. He's got the pressure tires. He's got to just wait. He's got the time to make the move forward. The drivers that can't wait are the ones that got fresh rubber, like that of Nate Lynch. He needs to start making a lot of moves quickly for that 25, as he's got to figure out how to get by House and also Grimes. But up front, still side by side from about that of 6th on back, where Metcalf is struggling. But here comes Scott Rickard. He's in the space underneath the 4, but they are just duking it out behind these guys.
And what a risky move there by the 05. I mean, holy cow, that was a move over or on the 4, but looks like the 4 made the outside work pretty well. And the 05 of Rickard still struggling right now, trying to make that move on the outside of the 4 of Hale, but you know, almost into the wall, and he'll clear him there. But one thing I noticed here, Sam, is outside grooves are rolling really well on the top and actually beating the cars pretty well on the inside.
It really is. And right now, coming to 7 laps to go. Scott Ricker is now up to 3rd, looking at Nate Lynch, who has fresher tires than the 05. He's now up to 8th place. But behind Nate Lynch, you just see the drivers fanning out, using and abusing what they've got. If you got fresh rubber, you got to go fast now. Jason Metcalf, though, who we saw get damaged under our green flag run, he has been just dropping like a rock. He was up at 4th, now back to 12th, and soon to be losing even more ground of the drivers that pitted. That of Chris Wade, he has only been able to move up 2 positions, up to 17th place. That 53, if he wants a shot to be in our top 10 or even into our top 5, he needs to move now. But up front, top 3, that's going to be that of Nick Holland, Ken Campbell, and also Scott Rickard. And now the battle for 2nd place. Ken Campbell, he's soon to be losing that position. Here comes the 05.
And now let's see how well the 15, never mind, it looks like he gave the 05 a spot a little bit, but look how much he can roll that top really well, almost getting to the bumper of the 05, and he's actually going to clear the 12 right there, now having a 12 sandwich, or the 15 sandwich between the 05 and the 12. Right now it looks like the 12 of Medlin is trying to keep his nose in there in the 15, letting him know, I'm still here, I'm trying to make this pass, but man, I mean, the 68 of Holland is loving to see this battle going on behind him, because after all this is happening, he's had a 1.2 second lead after this.
Yeah, able to continue to just gap himself as Ken Campbell close to that outside wall, almost brushed it once again. The difference between Rickard and as well as Medlin, he's only 1 lap difference. The freshest tires go to that of Scott Rickard, but Medlin is certainly still there. Rickard's doing a great job for himself. That gap, it was 1.3. It's now down to a second. That 05's coming as we're coming closer and closer to 5 laps to go. Some of the other drivers of note, Nate Lynch, he's now moved up 2 positions from the last time we noted the 25. He's up to 7th, but he is it's a little bit too late for some of these guys to be moving forward, even with the fresher rubber, but they're doing their darndest. Wade, one of the drivers that pitted, he under that last yellow, he's up to 13th and just mired and mingled in the drivers that are just going 2, 3, 4 wide down the front stretch.
Looking at the times back there, a 56.339 for the 68 of Holland, and 05 of Rickard, a 55.9, 4/10 faster that time by. They ran very similar times last time, but it's because the 05 of Rickard had to deal with 2 cars getting around him, or getting around 2 cars. Right now, there's 4 laps to go when he crosses the start finish line this time here, Sam. If it's 4/10 a lap, I think the 05 is going to get to his bumper.
And all that Nick Holland is banking on is for this race to stay green so we can defend that position and not worry about anyone else trying to steal a position away from him. But I got to say, up front, they're doing a great job single filing out. Back around 10th to 13th, it is a mess back here. I'm concerned that we might see a late yellow, but up front, you got to be thinking, stay green for Nick Holland to have a shot to win here tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, in just 2 laps, he's cut the 1.2 second lead in half. And right now, the 05 is just got the 68 in his sights. And like you said, 3 to go now, about 3.5 laps right now to go. And the 68, like you said, is hoping to keep it green so he can keep this distance away from the 05. But he's got to be defensive. I mean, almost to the back bumper already, and it's still 3 more entire laps to go.
3 laps to go, and defensive moves with there's the yellow that comes out. And you knew that it was going to come at some point, and it ends a lot of hopes and dreams for some drivers and resets the thoughts of some others as we're going to try to figure out where this yellow came from, because I have, looking at it, Brian Burchett, looks like it was the 223 getting himself out of sorts for himself, and actually, it looks like he was trying to just go low onto the apron and just came to a complete stop. That's what brought out our yellow. Instead of trying to drive it himself to pit road, he just parks it, and that's what brings out our yellow. Pocono, one of the few racetracks where if you go onto the apron, that is still considered the racing surface unless you're back on the grass aspect, where we don't really see that very often of yellows coming out unless you park right there in that spot.
Yeah, and not only that, but that little access road on the inside of Pocono is extremely bumpy, and you can see some drivers actually hop that access road and jump their car. It's actually very surprising to see here, but yeah, I mean, it still technically counts as the track, and unfortunately for the drivers that parked it there, brings out the caution and what you said earlier, not what the 68 wanted to see whatsoever.
Absolutely not. Well, these drivers most likely are not going to be making any pit stops as most of the field has already used their final set. And believe we're going to be putting ourselves into a green-white checkered overtime scenario. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be time for these drivers to get stacked up, ready to go. And the question for that of Nick Holland, can he make it 3 in a row? We'll be right back in just a few. It's overtime here for the World Interior 200 for the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, Andrew Medlin, Ken Campbell, Timmy McNally, your top 5. As a green flag waves, it's Nick Holland. He's got to be careful. We saw the pressure that Scott Rickard had, but the 05 is going to be on the outside. Here comes the 12 as they enter turn 1.
Right now, all the 68 can do is be defensive right now, but the 12 of Medlin is trying to close the door to the 05. Almost contact. Oh, we got another yellow.
quick yellow in the back of the pack as they are scattering, flipping. It's the 25. Nate Lynch flipping upside down. And drivers blown up, wrecked up, and that's what chaos we are used to seeing here on turn 1 at Pocono. And the big one strikes at our first attempt at overtime.
Oh man, the 25 on his hood. Thankfully back up on his front tires, but man, what a ride. And as you can see on board at the 25 into the back of the 18, just entered the corner a little bit hotter than the 18 expected. And unfortunately just getting back at him and then turned in from behind. And
there he goes.
Man.
He's going to hit the fence and then get contact once again. And whoop, there he goes, up in the air. Let's do a barrel roll up of this guy.
Oh, and then back on his front tires, man. What a ride for that 25.
And this happened up front. This was the battle for 8th position when that contact was made. So you had the rest of the 30 odds drivers just all had nowhere to go, piling in. Now the question of who is still here at the end of this thing, because we've only got one more attempt. We have our last attempt at a green-white checkered. And, man, there's just so many different points of view to take this. Some other drivers that were hard racing that had fresh rubber. Brian Chu, he was hard contact. Also the 9 of Hasty, he's going to be having a lot of front-end damage for himself. He's going to have to try to recover from this. Mike Lynch, blown engine. He's going to have to use a fast repair. And you just keep on cycling through, and you're just wondering who doesn't have damage at this point of all the drivers. Looks like our top 10 looking pretty decent for themselves, but this actually helps out that of Chris Wade a ton. He's now into our top 10 with the freshest of tires out here, but with only 2 laps once we go green, it's not a lot of time, but a top 5 finish could be possible for the 53.
Oh, definitely. And touching on the negatives, like you were saying earlier, with the drivers having all that damage. Oh, man, did the 25 beat the pace car out? I don't think he did. Oh, man, but fortunately, the 25 is going to be going on a lap down. But, you know, the 68 of Holland, like we said, was so unfortunate for having that caution come out in the green-white checker happening. But, you know, he didn't really push it much at that lap before the caution came out, letting the air pressures come down a lot and the tires cool off, making the surface area of the tire become larger and having more grip mechanically for him, almost as even as the 05 of Rickard. You know, Rickard's really quick, but, you know, just like last week, 60 to Holland is really good at holding off drivers. You know, he's got 2 laps to do it. He controls the restart. Let's see how the 68 Holland does with the tires now cooling down, but also watch out for that 12 of Medlin. He's really good in the late race restarts as well.
Probably one of my favorite comments that we got from that of Nick Holland when he won last week was, it seems like he just knows how to be in the way at the end of these races. And that's kind of how he's won the last 2 races. At his first win at Charlotte, then at Martinsville, he just found his way up front, leading the race on the final restart, and had to just worry about defending the drivers behind him. Late blocks, whatever it needed to be to make sure he had a shot to win. Nick Holland, he's in the same exact scenario he's been the last 2 weeks, and we already know how this book has ended before. We'll see if things change, as you've got that of our 2 weighing his drivers so far this season, both with 2. Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, both of them have 2 wins this season. Then you got Andrew Medlin, the most top 5s this season, but 0 wins for the 12. Timmy McNally, who we saw extremely quick at Las Vegas, but it seems like it's just been a comeback story for the 88 after being involved in a late wreck during that Las Vegas race. And then you got Ken Campbell trying to get another top 5 finish. His best finish was back at Daytona to start off this season in 5th place. He's currently in 5th. Cole Grimes, he's going to be somehow in 6th position for the 3 that's been so aggressive. One of those drivers that's on fresh rubber. He's on a similar stage as the 05. And then you fall back to Derek Offerman. He was the last driver on the streak of top 10s that got cut last week at Martinsville, but trying to continue a new streak of top 10 finishes. Aaron Hale, who is on some of the oldest, he is actually on the oldest tires in the whole entire track, currently in 8th place. Wade, who's got the freshest of all the tires out here, he's going to be in that of 11th, as well as Butt, that is on the same freshest of tires as Wade in 10th position. Looking at the drivers right now, Hunter, these drivers set up, ready to go. We're stacked. This is our last attempt at a green-white checkered here tonight. Do you think we're going to finish under yellow or under green?
Oh, Sam, it's hard to tell. I mean, there's so many drivers aggressive for spots that they all want. I mean, the 53 obviously racing for the win with the freshest tires. The 12 always there at the end, no matter the race. 05 of Rickard wanting that lead back from Holland. But Holland, like you said earlier with that comment, you know, he always knows how to be in the way. I mean, there's just so many drivers and so many outcomes that who knows what's going to happen here, Sam. But, you know, we're taking the 1 to green this time by. What are your thoughts on this restart?
It's going to be a wild one. I'm excited. This one, we've got ourselves 18 drivers, our top 18. That did not go into pit road. From 19th on back, all decided to come in, get service done. Looks like for Mike Lynch, he had to manually repair his blown-up engine, so it's going to be hurting that team. But looks like we might be seeing some. I mean, we saw the drama of drivers disconnecting for the first 3 quarters of this race. Seems like that is hopefully started to calm down for these guys. But Nick Holland, I mean, we touched on it at the start of the broadcast. He's one of those drivers that just shows up at the end and is competing for a win. That's what he's done the last 2 weeks. Scott Rickards just showed utter dominance throughout this whole entire race, and he's had to work his way up into second place. But if anyone's going to be a little bit of a snub that could really snuff out and hurt Rickard from winning this race, that's going to be Andrew Medlin. Second car on the inside. That 12, if he can get a good launch like he did on the last restart, pressure the 05, make him work and use up those tires, you can give time for that of the 68 of Holland to pull away and win this thing. But it's all about how well can you get Holland and also that of Medlin to work together so they can try to hold off the 05.
Definitely going to be an interesting one here, Sam. But, you know, the 88, you know, he didn't have the best middle to end run for this race himself, but he's back here in the top 4. I'd also like to keep an eye out for him. But, you know, Ken Campbell, the 15, also really well. But, you know, the 20 of Offerman back inside the top 10 again, Sam.
Yeah, he's up in the top 10. We'll see how well they can keep this up. Coming out of turn number 3 for the World Interiors 200 for the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. It's race number 7, our final attempt. This race either finishes under yellow or we get to finish this thing out green. Side by side for second place. Holland got the best start he needed. This is giving that of Medlin a shot. Driver slides it dives with an already wrecking.
Oh, the 53.
Also hail, and our yellow comes out. Nick Holland, 3 in a row, and he gets it done here at Pocono.
Oh, man, it was the 53 of Christopher Wade. Oh, no, I think he was just a little antsy on that restart and wanted to get going, and unfortunately just got into the back of the 4.
Oh, no, it was Butt. Butt got into Hale, and Hale came slicing across the nose of the 53. It's just drivers getting a little bit anxious, knowing that they had to get going. And that was our attempt. This race ends under yellow. That was the caution that brought it out. Couldn't even make it to turn 1. And our yellow flag waves. That's going to be Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, Andrew Medlin. Medlin continuing on his streak of the most top 5s. Now going to be up to 5. And Nick Holland taking the crown of the most wins. As coming around turn number 3. Nick Holland taking the yellow and white flag. As the drivers still have to pace for one more lap. But Hunter, I mean, there was the shot that this race could end under yellow, and it happened.
Yeah, not the fashion I expected it to end under yellow in, but, you know, that's racing sometimes. Some drivers just not expecting how this restart will end out, and unfortunately, a driver who we expected to maybe drive his way up into the top 5, unfortunately ends his race as a wrecked race car.
And drivers that were hoping to have a solid start, they were looking great. Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, Andrew Medlin, our top 3. We'll be interviewing them later on after they come across the line and some victory celebrations from the 68 of Nick Holland. 3 in a row, 3 very different courses. You got the cookie cutter at Charlotte for Nick Holland. Then we went to Martinsville last week, the Destruction Derby. And here at the Tricky Triangle, Nick Holland coming out of turn number 3 across the line. World Interior 200 winner, Nick Holland, making it 3 in a row, and also the winningest driver so far this season as they get to blast by the pace car. I mean, it has been a very wild season so far, and still, everyone thought that he was going to be Scott Rickard winning every race after the dominance he had for the season 2 when they were racing in the trucks. Here for season 3, they changed it to the Xfinity cars, and certainly has been a dazzling season of what is going to happen and is it going to happen, as it is going to be Nick Holland coming away with the win. Man, Hunter, again, we get to talk to our top 3. Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, Andrew Medlin. I mean, I feel like it's going to be pretty similar to the way that I've talked to them previously of Medlin. This got to hurt that he still hasn't won yet. Rickard, he's close to getting his 3rd win, but a late caution kind of stole that away. And for Nick Holland, man, where is his lucky horseshoe in that car for him to get 3 in a row and the dramatic ways that he has done it? He's found himself in the right place at the right time late on these races. As the 68 gets to burn it down, we'll be right back to talk to our top 3. Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, and Andrew Medlin. We'll be right back in just a few. Well, we ended in sparks here tonight for the Stars and Stripes Xfinity Series. It was race number 7, and we needed all 2 attempts at a green-white checkered, and we still couldn't finish under green. They couldn't even make it to turn 4, as it gives the win to that of Nick Holland. And then in second place, Scott Rickard just never had a shot. But in third, it's Andrew Medlin, who tried his best to try to get by that of Scott Rickard at the end. And we'll be talking to the 12 here as we have Andrew up in the booth. Andrew, you had a shot there to possibly make a pass for second, but that late caution just ending any hopes of that.
2 weeks in a row of cautions being my worst enemy there. So really thought Scotty and I had something for the 68 car again, but I'll tell you what, he's got a little rabbit foot up on his rear view mirror there. Not only is he a talented sim racer, but he's had some good luck there. But really wish we could have at least gotten one full green flag lap there in those last 2 attempts. But either way, I'm very happy with P3. Pocono wasn't one of my stronger tracks. Last week I was saying I'd never even raced here. I just downloaded the track like 6 nights ago. So I'm happy with P3, and we'll head on to Dover next week.
Well, with it being your first time here, I mean, how did you like running at the Tricky Triangle here tonight? As it seemed like a lot of these guys either they loved the setup or they hated it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it took some getting used to, but this is one of those momentum racetracks. If you can keep clean lines, one through the tunnel turn and out of three there, you can get a good run on these guys coming out. So I learned a few things early on in the race and felt pretty solid at the end. I didn't think I had a winning car, Sam, but I thought I had a second place car. So so I'm a little bummed. I thought we could have maybe made up one more spot, but either way, I'm not going to complain. I'm very happy where we finished.
Andrew, we're going. We thought maybe we'd be coming to a 1.5-mile course here shortly after the differences of courses, but we're actually going to Dover next. Then we go to Phoenix, and then we find ourselves going to Indy. So many different tracks that we're going to here. That does it feel like, hey, you're going to need that luck with some of the courses we're going to?
I think so. Yeah, we're going to need a little luck, but I'll tell you what, if we keep hanging out up here in the top five, last week I was really bummed because Martinsville is one of my favorite tracks. Thought we could have gotten a win there. This one, I really didn't know what to expect. I like Dover, so I feel, pretty good about that one and Phoenix. But like I was just saying, if we stay up here in the front, we're bound to get a win here sooner or later.
Oh, for sure, Andrew. I mean, you're coming into this race the most top fives, another top five to keep that reign, and you certainly are one of those drivers that we always have to keep our eye on each and every week. But before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout outs.
I got to give a shout out to my wife Sarah and also thank her for taking out the trash tonight. It was trash night at the Medlin household, so appreciate that. Give a shout out to my dad Bruce. He's usually watching these. My brother Aaron. It's his birthday this Sunday, so we'll be celebrating that. And give a shout out to Wolfpack Racing. Looks like we came home with some good finishes tonight. And you guys with the calls up in the booth, and of course the admins, the Lynch brothers and Derek. Appreciate everyone, and looking forward to having a good run at Dover next week.
That's Andrew Mendlin in the 12, getting a third place finish here tonight, and good luck next week.
Take care. Thank you, Sam. Good night, everyone.
As now we are going to bring up Scott Rickard, who comes up short, and he is one of our favorites every week. Scott, it's Sam up in the booth. You got me?
Yes, I do.
Coming up short, but you certainly had the fastest car here tonight. How does this one feel just coming up a position short?
Frustrated with all the cautions at the end.
Yeah, I would be too. That was one thing that we weren't sure on how the drivers were going to react with all the different tire strategies. But speaking of your strategy, you stayed out there as long as possible on that green flag run. How were you feeling about trying to pass all the drivers in front of you, especially when you were just a position away coming to 3 laps to go with that of Holland?
I was feeling really good. I was catching at least a couple tenths a lap up until that caution. Never had enough time after that to finish the deal.
Well, Scott, we're coming up to Dover, Phoenix, Indianapolis. How are you feeling about those next 3 tracks? And do you feel like you're going to be finding yourself in victory lane here shortly?
Yeah, especially Dover and Phoenix. They're two of my. I love them 2 tracks, so I'm ready. I'm ready for them too.
Well, Scott, before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Everybody down at Misfit and my dog that's in the room.
Scott Rickard, he came into this race our points leader. Most likely will leave it as our points leader, but an absolutely dazzling show that I know you came up short, but we know that victory lane is coming shortly for you in these next couple of weeks. And now we're going to be having ourselves the man that I'm wondering if he has a horseshoe or rabbit's foot, whatever he has. But Nick Holland is just on a tear. Nick, we were asked Andrew how he felt about this, and he said that maybe you have yourselves a rabbit foot somewhere hanging in that car. I think you might have a horseshoe somewhere in that car. Where are you finding these victories 3 weeks in a row?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. I don't know where the good luck came from, but I want to say it's probably the Xbox party, because as soon as I started that, I've won the last 3 races. So I don't know if maybe it's just having some people view it, but hey, it's very lucky. I hate to see a race end without any racing, but I came out with the win, so I can't be too upset.
Yeah, I mean, you came in and we touched on it at the beginning of the broadcast, saying that you just find yourself at the end of these races up front. We'll see if it happens again. Same thing happens. I know that late in this race, we were coming close. You were being ran down by Scott Rickard, and there was a thought of maybe you could have held him off before that late yellow came and changed the whole entire aspect of this race. But how well were you feeling like you could defend that 0-5 with 3 laps to go before the yellow came?
I basically was expecting to, if it was going to go green, to watch his back bumper just disappear into the horizon, because he was coming quickly, and I used up a lot of my tires trying to run away from everybody, and he had to be saving back there. So, but definitely scared.
Yeah, I mean, Nick, you did a great job here tonight. We're going to Dover, Phoenix, and Indianapolis. These are the next 3 races we've got. I know for me, I'm so used to the schedule. You go to a couple of odd tracks and you go back to mile and a half racing. How are you liking the fact that the schedule is so different from early on? It seemed pretty traditional to now short track racing. Again, like Indy, kind of similar to here tonight. Draft so important, so are tires and fuel strategies. To a lot of short track racing coming up here shortly.
Yeah, I like the mile and a halves and up. Not a huge fan of short track racing, just because, I mean, as we've seen, the track record of cautions has been a lot of riding around. But yeah, usually the mile and a halves are good races, and I seem to have decent speed there and enough to at least contend. So, but yeah, I'm liking Dover, so we'll see how it goes. It's a home track, so we'll see how things go there.
Well, that's Nick Holland, and before we let you go, the floor is yours for any shout-outs.
Yeah, gotta give a shout out to the Lucky Charms in the Xbox party, because I mean, I won every race. So, and yeah, thanks to you guys for putting on a good broadcast, and you guys do a great job. And Nate and everybody for putting it on, and World Interiors and Bubba Chew for sponsoring this race tonight.
Well, that's Nick Holland. You got to count him 1, 2, 3 in a row, finishing with the win here tonight at Pocono. Congratulations, and hopefully this luck continues on, because it has been a blast to watch these finales of these races and you trying to defend yourself.
Yeah, all right, thank you. Yeah, I look forward to it.
All right, Nick. Well, hopefully we'll talk to you next week. Good luck.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.
Well, Hunter, we got to see the drama, the flair, and not a lot of racing there in those final 8 laps, but certainly dramatic with all of the late cautions that came flying through.
Oh yeah, it was a great race all around. I mean, unfortunately, we didn't get to see the race finish under the green flag racing we saw all day today. And but overall, I mean, great racing all around. Some drivers we definitely didn't see up front all the time, like we saw today, like the 15 of Ken Campbell. But like we saw at Martinsville, varying strategies like the 68 and the 12 and the 05. I mean, the 68 yet again just knows how to stay out front and get that win. 3 weeks in a row now for the 68 and Nick Holland.
It's incredible to see. It's something you don't get to see very often, of a driver that seems comfortable, confident in the seat, but at the end of these races, absolutely shocked and bamboozled, kind of like we are up in the booth sometimes on how he's up front. But Nick Holland, 3 in a row. He won back at Charlotte, Martinsville, and here today at Pocono. Here is your final results of tonight's race. It's going to be Nick Holland, Scott Rickard, as well as Andrew Medlin, your top 3, with Timmy McNally and Ken Campbell, your top 5. Ken Campbell, once again, tying his best finish, his second top 5 this season, and McNally needing these top 5 runs for himself to get back into the top 12 points and stay there for sure. He's 7th coming into today, but we've seen that bad luck can strike some of these teams hard, so you want to make sure you have all these points. Then you got that of Cole Grimes going to be getting that 6th place position. Derek Offerman getting back on his streak of top 10 finishes. Travis Butt, who went with the late caution coming with the tires, wasn't able to really utilize them the best that he wanted to, and a little bit of content that kind of brought out our last caution that ended this race, but an 8th place finish for himself, with Jason Metcalf, a 9th place finish for the 35, who came off a nice finish last week. He'll be getting some more points. Kyle Boyling, 10th place finish for himself. But you know that of Chris Wade, he was hoping for a better day with those fresh tires. And as well as you keep on looking down the field, I mean, Dr. House was running up in the top 10 all race long, 20th place finish for himself after being involved in a late wreck. Some other drivers I know, Aaron Hale, who was caught up in that wreck as well. Mike Watts, who was involved in a wreck. I mean, you keep on just going down the list and you keep on thinking, man, these guys are having great runs, but they just could not finish it out, as well as note the 5 drivers that had some internet issues here tonight. Hoping that gets fixed up once we go to Dover next week. But Hunter, to finish out tonight, what are some of your final thoughts of Pocono?
Great racing all around. A lot of varying strategies that unfortunately didn't work for some people. Still hard racing like we saw in Martinsville, and unfortunately ending some drivers' days early. Also, hopefully every driver can get their internet back up working normally like we saw at the beginning of the season, so we don't have any drivers drop through for Dover. But another short track-esque track at Dover, so it's going to be interesting to see how hard these drivers are going to race each other at Dover.
Next to your 3 races, Dover, Phoenix, and then we go to Indianapolis. 3 very different courses, but should bring out some great racing like we've seen all season long. Once again, it's going to be that of Nick Holland. 3 in a row. We'll see if he can try to make it 4 in a row next week. But to finish out our call, we got to throw it up to our producer, Robert Moore Jr., to finish out the call. Robert, the call's yours.
All right. Thank you, guys. Man, wow. What great racing here at Pocono, one of my home tracks here in Pennsylvania. Love this place. Been around this place in a real car. I know what these guys go through, and man, it is fun track to race. Comes down to a lot of times, like these guys were talking about all night, fuel mileage sometimes, tire saving, things like that. So great calling by you guys. Congratulations to Nick again. I need that horseshoe. I'm going to play the lottery. Shoot me a message on Discord, Nick, of what 3 numbers I need to play for the lottery, and I'm going to go play them tomorrow and see if we can win some money. I'm being serious. Shoot me a message, man. I'm going to play the lottery and see if we can win, a couple $100 or whatever. But man, oh man, it was great. But like you guys said, next 3 races got coming up here, but we will catch everybody next Thursday at Dover. Another one of my home tracks. Been down there in real life. That is a very, very fun track. A really tough track to race to at the same time. Turn 1 and 2 can be very, very tricky going through that turn with the dips of ups and downs. So, and I know these Xfinity cars from the last time I've been there, Hunter and Sam, they're a handful to drive there. They really are. So we'll see how these guys can tackle that track. But our next televised stream will be this Saturday night with me and Sam calling all the action with NISCC Cup Series, as they've got one more race to go until they head into the playoffs, and there's also some money on the line. So make sure you hit that subscribe button and don't miss any of that action when we go live Saturday night, 8:50. But until then, have a great Friday. Be safe on Saturday, and we'll catch everybody Saturday night. Until then, God bless everybody. We love you all. Peace out.